Okay, recording started. And since we have people start joining and it's one, I don't want to take a lot of more time and I want to start. Welcome everyone for San Antonio Marketer User Group October 2025 meeting. Before we started, I want to highlight some of the house rules and then I will pass the microphone to Carissa. So no self promotion or pitching any kind in the user group events, and please do not contact people outside of the user group without their consent. And if the group members share their use cases at the meeting, please don't share the information without their consent. This meeting is recorded. If you not be recorded for this session, you can hang up and we can share with the live recorded session later on. And also, if you're not a part of the San Antonio, Texas user group chapter, please go ahead and register because we not only the in-person events, which is great if you can make it, but if you are like a little away from San Antonio, Texas, you can always get information for our online events for the future. We have couple announcement. New email designer have a hosting some office hours. If you would like to learn a little bit more, you can register on the left side. Also, we have Adobe released some free courses about new email designer to learn the new features, functionality, and you can also register for free courses on the right QR code. Experiences Maker Awards. So if you did not apply yet, you can apply 3 of the 10 categories, and they extended the submission for October 31st. You can also use the QR code. It's an amazing event at the Adobe Summit. If you want to renew your certification already, like had a certification, that's a great chance. If you never have a get certification, you can use the Adobe certification portal to get one. It's highly recommended to showcase your expertise and knowledge about Marketo. We love to hear your feedback. You can use the G2 or Trust Radius. And if you are going to put some feedback, you can receive a $25 gift certification. Without further ado, Carissa is our speaker. If you know her, you know her. If you don't know her, she's amazing. I cannot wait to listen to today's conversation. Me and AJ is going to be moderator. We try to, and if you have question, please edit the chat box. We try to answer as much as we can. If not, we will reach out after the meeting. And Carissa, that's your turn.
Thank you, Marai. All right, let me share my screen here. All right. Everybody can see here. So today we're going to be talking about creating a center of excellence with Marketo Engage. So if you don't know me, let me go ahead and get here moving. My name is Carissa Russell. I am currently a senior marketing operations technologist for McGraw-Hill Education. I'm a 4-time Marketo champion. I've been a certified expert since 2015, and I'm also an Adobe subject matter expert. I have been working in Marketo since 2013, and I think over that amount of time, I've seen marketing operations change dramatically, like we all have. The last time I presented this concept, I threw the clicker, so at least I'm virtual, so that's not going to happen this time. You all are safe. But also you have to present things at a very one-on-one level. So since we're here at a mug, I feel like we all know Marketo, and we all understand what it does. So I'm going to set the scene, but I'm not going to belabor the points about what marketing operations is and what Marketo can do for you as a COE. I'm going to spend most of my time talking about how to think about creating it. So like what types of questions you should be asking yourself when you're building these things out and you're considering these processes. And then we're going to look at it through different perspectives. So we're going to look at a functioning instance where Marketo is working as a center of excellence, and we're going to look at it from that systems perspective. We're going to look at it from a process perspective, and then we're going to look at it from an enablement and adoption perspective. So, you can have the best center of excellence in the world, but if people don't understand it and they're not using it, then it's pointless. So that part is just as important when you're considering and creating your COE. And then at the end, I'm going to kind of round it all up and highlight the benefits of working towards these kind of tenets within your instance, what it can benefit your team, what it can benefit your marketing org overall. And hopefully I won't babble too much, and we'll have time at the very end for Q&A. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. So marketing operations, we understand what this type of work is as we work in it. I would argue that these professionals have to have both a foot in the technology arm of the business and the marketing arm of the business. So, we can be a little unicorny in some ways with the capabilities that we need to, service when we are in a marketing operations role or a part of a marketing operations team. So the types of work that generally flow through this branch of a business are primarily building campaigns. So, if there's a digital activity, there is probably a campaign process around it that exists to track it. So that is the major function of marketing operations. We're building emails, we're building landing pages, we're launching forms, we're building that data structure to track all those in digital engagements through the web into our systems, which takes us into process management. We are also creating those processes, not only how those leads flow in, what they do behind the scenes, how that data flows from system to system when it comes in from that marketing door. So as an operations professional, we are also very focused on those processes and making sure that data comes in the right way. We also have to be able to intelligently report on it. So not only are we collecting all of those data points that we need, we're putting them into the correct structure, into the correct hierarchies. So we are able to have this data, report out on it, and make intelligent decisions about the way marketing can move in the future and the way that it can grow. And finally, I would argue that this is definitely for the operations people with their foot in the technology side of the business. A lot of the times, system integrations and syncs will fall on your desk, whether you're using Marketo as a standalone or you have it integrated with a CRM or with APIs. These are things that you need to monitor from a systems perspective. You need to own, you need to integrate, and those are things that marketing operations professionals are also responsible for. So Marketo as a center of excellence. So Marketo is more than a map, and I'm sure we've all seen it change a lot, just even in the last few years. But one thing has remained true throughout the entire time. It's always been the core of a connected, data-driven customer experience. It collects that people data, it collects what they're doing, and it really gives you the opportunity to use that and utilize it to create a more personalized customer experience. When you take a step further back and you look at it from an integrations perspective, you can integrate it with a CRM, you can integrate it with so many different technology systems for additional intelligence via API. It makes it very important when you are increasing the capabilities of your Marketo instance that you are considering your people, your processes, and your technology to make sure that they all align and all of the data is flowing through the systems. One thing that you'll run into with Marketo too is that it's usually a highly individualized implementation. So you can work in your role for an extended amount of time, be in Marketo for a decade, and walk into a new role in a new business and be in a completely different place. Every business, because Marketo is so powerful and it has so many levers you can pull when you're executing marketing campaigns or you're looking to grow and create new strategies, when businesses implement them in such individualized ways, it becomes super important to share standards, to mind industry best practice, and set up all of your programs and campaigns to what best practice is. So when you have a powerful system that can be implemented thousands of different ways, how do you start creating a center of excellence? Well, the first thing you can do is identify your pain points and opportunities for improvement, and then use Marketo as a system and all of those capabilities to solve for those issues. So how do you center on what needs excellence? Well, here are some questions that you can ask yourself and your team that will help you figure out the core concepts you need to consider and build around foundationally when you are creating your center of excellence to make sure that it is strong and it stays and it really serves the people that you're creating it for. So the first question you can ask is, what hurts the most? And I know that can sound a little inflammatory. I know some people like talking about that a lot. I may be the weirdo that experiences physical pain when you're auditing inefficient processes, but the fact remains it can be quite painful to do some things in the system. Are you pushing deadlines because you don't have a great process for stakeholder feedback to approve those assets? Are you spending a lot of time hunting down dependencies when you're trying to make changes or edit things? Do you have enough time in your review process for QA to make sure that you're not sending out anything with typos? All of these things, if you don't have processes in place to support them, can make them very painful and can also, increase the ability to make mistakes. So you want to make sure you're categorizing this and you know what is causing your team friction. Which leads you into asking, where are you spending most of your time? It doesn't have to be painful to be something that you can make more efficient. Are you spending too much time educating your stakeholders? Are you spending too much time sending out smart list reports, individualized smart list reports? If you find something like that, you could take that smart list and subscribe the requester to it. So it's a set it and forget. They will get the cadence sent to them every so often. That processes for your center of excellence don't have to be huge. They can be little things like that that end up saving you time. So ask yourself these questions continually, even through your building, even as it's been established, because identifying these points as you go just offers you opportunity for improvement. What kind of strengths do you have on your team? I think people are your most important asset when you're considering, your center of excellence and your processes, because being in a batch of operations unicorns, you might have some really unique skills on your team. I came from front-end web development, so I am very comfortable in code. I've been able to use that to solve a lot of these issues that we were experiencing and build those solutions into our center of excellence. So know your team, know what their strengths are, know how they can work together. And in turn, you can ask yourself, is there room to improve? I think everyone should answer this yes, especially working in technology. I mean, this is constantly changing. So there's always room to improve. But if you are understanding your team, you understand their strengths, you have these processes in place, they can also help you find ways to improve. So, making sure that you are supporting your team and giving them that freedom to not only do their jobs, the support to be confident in what they're doing, they can also have that extra time to brainstorm and bring these things up and then also help you solution them. So make sure that, you are knowing your people as a part of your center of excellence. So I feel like the best way to understand what this looks like in practice is to take a glimpse at what a large instance looks like when Marketo is functioning as a core COE. So this is kind of a quick look at how McGraw is set up from a Marketo perspective. So, we have Marketo Engage. We have custom objects inside of there, which gives it that CRM-like functionality within Marketo itself. We also have it synced to a CRM and custom objects coming over from our CRM. We have a lot of different tech services integrated with Marketo, and then we also have it pushing information out to our data lake for storage. So there is a lot of tech stack to consider when we are building out our center of excellence. So let's take a step back and look at it from a systems lens. So if Marketo is going to function as a center of excellence, what can we actually do in the system to solution for this? So as a business, we ask ourselves, what do we need? We pose these problems, and then we use what we have in front of us, our marketing tech stack, Marketo, to solve them for us. So first and foremost, one of our biggest issues is audience list building. It has been a constant thing in my entire time here, and something that we always ask ourselves and are always looking to improve. No matter what, there's a lot of things that are in Marketo out of the box that can help you with audience management. So some of you may be familiar with segmentations, which are like always on smart lists that sort every single person into one singular bucket within your instance. So it's easy to grab your marketable leads. It's easy to grab however you want to categorize them. But when you have more complex data sets, they may need to fit into more than one bucket at a time. So because of our data set, because we have teachers who teach different grades, who teach different subjects, we spend a lot of time having to refine our audience lists. What else do we need to consider? Well, we need to consider our quantity of forms. Being in marketing, I'm sure you understand how easily this could get out of hand if people are requesting forms for events, they're requesting forms for webinars, they're requesting forms for one-off landing pages. This can expand very quickly, especially if they don't want certain fields on or they do want certain fields on. So it can become a lot to manage. You want to make sure you're always cognizant of your quantity of forms, and alongside of that, your hidden form fields. We do a lot of parameter tracking, which is filling in that data behind the scenes for us so we can have that intelligent reporting. All of those are usually managed through hidden form fields. So those are something that we need to consider, keeping them up to date, making sure they all align, making sure they're on all of our forms. So some other things that you want to make sure you're considering from a systems perspective is making sure your campaign templates are built to best practice and they only deviate when necessary. So if you have a big instance, you have multiple people working in it, we have multiple business units in ours, having standard templates where you have each channel type built in a standard way, not only helps you hit the ground running, but it can help you go back when you're looking for, if you have issues and you need to research things historically, everything's set up in a standard way. So you want to make sure that you have standard templates and that you're only deviating from those when necessary. And then finally, you want to make sure that people can pick the right COE template for the campaign request. Having a lot of levers to pull, you have a lot of options. And if a manager wants to send 5 emails, is it a nurture? Is it a multi-email drip? Is it an email blast? We want to make sure not only our marketing managers feel empowered to understand what they need to ask us for, and we want to make sure our specialists know what COE template would serve them best. So the first problem that we tackled was our master form system. So how do you create something like this? Well, the way that we approached it from McGraw is first and foremost, we categorized our request types. So we have 5 standard request types, whether that's contact a rep, requesting a demo, requesting a digital sample. These are all standard types of requests that we get and service as a business. Secondarily, how do we handle those requests when they come in? Well, we have reps handle them, but who the rep is that handles the request depends on multiple factors. It depends on, first and foremost, that type of request. So did they want the contact a rep? Did they want a demo? Did they want their sample? And secondarily, what product are they asking about? So when we devised the process, we decided to break down our master forms into 2 main categories. So we have our request type, and then every single product portfolio has a request type underneath it. So that way, when somebody submits the form and asks for that request, we have workflows built on the back end in Marketo that looks at what form they filled, looks at what request type they were, additionally looks at the region that they filled out in the form, and then routes them in the system accordingly to the correct rep. So having it set up this way, when we get asks for new forms, we vet them against what we currently have. If you are requesting a form from us and we give you the code, it's going to be the same one. So some of the benefits of using a master form system like this are, first and foremost, the scalability. So when you are on a McGraw web property and you are contacting a rep, that form is going to be physically the same form on all of those instances across our web page. Or even if it's on a landing page that has the same requirement, it's going to be the same physical form. So it makes it easy to scale when you only have to edit that form in one place, and then it will automatically update on all of the other web pages and presences that it exists on. It makes it very easy to standardize fields because you're only using that one physical form iteration in all those different places. You can see how quickly it can get out of hand with the constant scrolling on the left there to see how many we actually have in service. But it could easily be triple that amount. So when you have a standard standard in place like this, it makes it easy to make sure that, oh yes, we have an update from privacy. We need to make sure that this checkbox is on all of the forms. They're all in one place. You can go right down the list, add that on, and then approve them, and they are live on all of the properties that they are on. So update management becomes very easy, and then it also enables you to have more data control. So again, if we have business needs change, we need to either implement new tracking parameters, remove outdated ones. Having it all in one place and having them concise makes a big difference when you're trying to roll out these overarching processes that are usually really important because they're dealing with consenting information from your customers. And then this tip, which I actually created another slide for because it's so important. Embarrassingly, I did not learn this until, God, it was at least 5 or 6 years into working at Marketo. But the biggest tip is, no matter the size of your instance, include the form number in the naming convention in Marketo. So if you are tracking down individual issues, you're having a form display weird, or somebody has a question about it, you can right click on that web page, view the source code, search for that place in the code that says Marketo form, find that number, and then because you put that form ID number in the naming convention, when you go back into Marketo to find that form to create whatever updates you needed, it will pop right up in the search because you have the ID right there. So no matter what you're doing in Marketo, this is always a good practice to have. All right, and I wanted to make sure we talked about naming conventions. It seems a little funny to do this because your group leader, Mirai, is probably the authority on this, along with, I see Alex on the list there too. Their talk at MOPSA was amazing if you would like to dig deep into the power of taxonomy and naming conventions. But having a standardized naming convention in place helps exponentially throughout the entire marketing process. So you can see an example here of how we have our setup at McGraw. You can see a couple suggestions I have, depending on how you prefer things to stack when you're designing your parents and you're designing your hierarchy, and the taxonomy on the name. You can consider that date stacking. I personally like to go by year, but you know, depending on where you're at, it might not be the best route. So having that in place, making sure that everybody adheres to those naming conventions really helps. When you have long ones like this, enabling your team to be able to create them is really important. So what we have is a builder that they can use. So anytime they get a job or they need to create their name and they need to make sure that it's in the proper format, they just use the builder, they plug in all of the information they get when they get their job assigned, and it spits out the name in the proper taxonomy. They can just copy and paste and use. All right, and so this is probably the most important thing I think you can do in your Marketo instance is create a template COE. So you can kind of see an example of how we've done this at McGraw. We have a Center of Excellence folder, and inside that folder, we have every single marketing program with all of those standard campaigns, processes, assets, anything inside of it that is aligned with the best practice for that channel. Not only do we have those clonable templates, but we also have our wiki, which I will showcase a little bit later, that also displays all the different types we have. So it has not only the name of the marketing opportunity, like the marketing channels we offer, but it also has descriptions and use cases for them. So again, if that marketing manager is coming at you with 5 emails, they don't know what's best, you don't know what's best. The use cases and the documentation here around our templates can really help you pick the right format for whatever campaign is being requested. And this is a sneak peek into one of those templates. So I'm sure we're all really familiar with webinars. And there is a lot of standard best practice when it comes to setting them up. So you can see here, this is what our webinar template looks like broken out. It has all of those standard processes and pieces inside. All of the emails have our webinar templates that are modular. They're full of default code. They're all fully tokenized. Our landing pages as well. So when you clone this from the COE template, you are easily putting in that information, the tokens. You can turn the assets on and off if they want more follow-up, if they want less follow-up. It's all in there for when you start. There's a lot of different integration options you can use for this. Some of those platforms have recommendations on how you set this up. So I would be mindful if you are building COE programs that have technology integrations that they work with, to make sure that you're reviewing what that process is and making sure your COE template supports what that system supports. So we are, for now, a Zoom house majorly. So ours is set up with Zoom standards. And you can see one of the best things that we have alongside of our templates is that wiki. And in our wiki, we have documentation for each one of these COE templates that lists every single asset that is inside, how to customize it, and it guides you through the process of cloning and editing these templates. All right, and before we hop out of systems, I want to talk about how we fixed our audience building. So we created a Marketo audience template COE. So what that looks like in Marketo is essentially a program folder full of all of our commonly requested audiences. So while segmentation may not be a great fit for this, we are able to create more complex smart lists, but that consider those audience buckets that we have, where we're separating people by job title, by grade level, by their role within the school, and it includes any common crossover that we get. So for example, we'll get campaign managers who want to market to math teachers for high school and middle school, and they also want to market to building admins. So we have a lot of different smart lists that are already created, ready to go within this template that you can just clone out into whatever campaign you're working in and just edit it on the top line and be ready to go. Looking at the right side, you can see all of those filters down. So that's just like the top example of what these look like. And just having all of these filters set up and organized this way is just, it removes a lot of the question. It removes as much time as humanly possible when it comes to building these audiences, and has been a great way to reduce this pain point as much as we possibly can. All right, let's take a look at it from a process standpoint. So what problems did we have to solve here? Well, we needed a transparent and semi-automated way to manage a lot of campaign requests. We do get a high volume, a lot of different types of campaigns. So we need to not be thinking about managing these jobs and just be thinking about building them. We need to communicate with stakeholders during QA for approval. So all of the assets that we build, we want to make sure that that stakeholder signs off on them, and we need to make sure that that's recorded. We want to track our internal projects. So campaign archiving, if we're doing any updates to those COE templates, when we do yearly audits on all of our live triggered campaigns, these are also projects, while not generated by marketing managers, they're projects that we run through our team that we need to also track. Stakeholders having all the pieces necessary to start a build. We need copy, we need images, and we can waste a lot of time having to chase people down for these things, and we don't want to, miss their due date or miss anything. So we have to make sure that they have all of that up front. In tandem with communicating those SLAs, making sure that they understand what they're submitting and then how long it's going to take for that to be built, so they're submitting with proper due dates in mind. And then we want to track our department performance so we can prove our efficiency and worth. We do a really, really good job in operations with quantifying how successful our campaigns are, but we also would like to be able to do that for ourselves. A lot of the work we do in operations is behind the scenes. A lot of it's hard to understand what goes into this. So being able to see all of what we do and get insight on it, similarly to how we do our marketing campaigns, can be very useful for a team that works so predominantly behind the scenes. So how do we solve this? Well, this is what it looks like in a lovely flowchart. But this is our job management center. I know going through this, it can possibly seem overwhelming because we have so much within this instance. But one thing I will say is that starting to work towards these principles is so important, because this is the culmination of the effort of operations professionals over the duration of McGraw having their instance. So we have this lovely job intake flowchart, but it's newer as far as the whole thing is experienced. So having these issues that we've had and wanting to show our work and show what we can contribute to the business, we created this flowchart so we can track what we do. It starts out with that job intake form. So those stakeholders collect all of their information that they need, their copy, their images, and then they submit it to us through a form. From there, it goes into our job intake manager. This is our core system that holds all of our job and assignment information. From there, it goes into our stakeholder communication task system. So this is where we are getting those approvals and timestamps. It also goes into our internal team task system, and this is where our specialists can track their progress on these projects. We can track QA. We track them from start to finish. And then once that is complete and the project is deployed, those jobs go into our deployed and archived bucket. And you can see here, we're also pulling the information out of our job intake manager and pumping it into our job performance dashboard. So what does this look like in practice? Well, this is our job intake form. So it is hosted in a Smartsheet. You can see here we do have a lot of information. We do a lot of not only reporting on our campaigns, but reporting on our jobs. So we have all of the information that we need up front here. We have a lot of assistance for the people who fill these out as well. So if we are asking for something like a product code in the form, we have tooltips where it tells people where to go to find their product, to find the product code so they can put it in the form. That way, when that form is submitted and it becomes ready to build, we can take that code and make sure that it goes into the right place in Marketo, it flows into Salesforce, and we're categorizing all of these campaigns correctly. So we have a lot of assistance for people when they're submitting on the form. And then on the left side, you'll see we have all of the different types of campaigns we offer, and we have full guides for them. So it talks about our SLAs, how long it takes, and it talks about what kind of things they need to prepare to submit something like this to us. So after it submits to the form, it comes into our queue, and that is when it goes into build mode. So how do you define the process of building it and tracking it? There's so many systems out there that do this kind of thing for you. It really comes down to a matter of preference. You might even have some of these systems available to you already within your business. So if you do, some of those you can work with, or if not, when it comes down to evaluating what systems work best, I think it makes the most sense to ask those core questions, find out what you need, and then use those systems to build that process for you. So what were the core things that we needed at McGraw out of our intake process? Well, we needed that intake form. We needed a clean way for people to submit the jobs to us with all of the parameters we needed. We needed a queue so we could keep all of those jobs. We needed a way to assign those jobs out to specialists. We needed to communicate with those stakeholders. Some of those stakeholders work with agencies that are outside of our org, so licensing became a discussion for some of this. We wanted to track those internal optimization projects. So these are those extra ones that do not have a campaign build necessarily in Marketo. They don't have their own programs, but they are important operational processes that you need to repeat, track, and do every single year. We wanted the job data to be pushed between the systems automatically. We handle a high volume of work, so we can't afford to manually transfer any of these. So all of our systems need to work together seamlessly and push the data within each other. To that point, they also need to notify the people involved when action is needed. So if we have a specialist completing an email, we use Litmus for approval processes. They publish that email to Litmus, and it sends a notification to that stakeholder saying, hey, your email's ready, come check it out. They get to check it out, leave their comments. When they are completed, it sends a note back to the specialist saying, hey, here's any comments, or yes, it's good to go. So all of these factors needed to be considered and then built within the processes that we have. So now that we have this nice intake process and we have a way to manage all of our jobs, we can reap some of the benefits of that. And we have this lovely job performance dashboard. So all of that information in our job management center is taken into a specialized Tableau dashboard that we have designed. It gives us stats like our year-over-year job totals, our month-over-month job performance, and it has some special areas that we've created, like delay reason analysis and SLA averages that we like to look at. Like I said, when you're asking yourself these questions, where do you spend most of your time? Having sections like delay reason analysis and SLA averages make it very easy for you to keep that top of mind. If you are looking at a dashboard and you're seeing those numbers inflate, it makes it very easy to say, oh, we could do this. So having that bird's eye view really helps your team function. But additionally, if you have, for example, the last 6 months, we've had an even heavier influx of jobs. So we can see the trends across the dashboard. It makes, getting resourcing, advocating for headcount, it makes all of those things a lot easier when you can see it like this right in front of you. All right, so lastly, let's take a look at this from an enablement and adoption lens. Like I said, you can have the best COE ever, the most robust thing, but if no one understands it or uses it, it's completely pointless. So it's very important to evangelize and educate people about what you have in marketing to offer. So struggles that we have in this area pretty consistently are needing to educate stakeholders. So whether they're not running those types of campaigns or maybe they haven't in a while, just letting them know what we have available, letting them know when new features are released, or if we're introducing new ways for them to market, we want to make sure that we're educating them on that and we're staying in front of them. Onboarding and training new people, whether they're specialists or marketing managers, they have to understand how to work with us as a team. So we need to be able to bring these people up to speed quickly and let them hit the ground running. To that point, we want to empower them to make the right choices. When you have such an advanced implementation, it can feel very overwhelming. So we really focus on enablement and creating, tools along the process that can help people feel confident in the decisions that they're making. And then also always communicating our SLAs, especially if you have busy times and they need to be adjusted, just making sure that you can have that clearly communicated at all times. So ways that we evangelize our marketing operations and automation business within McGraw. First and foremost, we have this COE process wiki. This is probably the craziest thing I've ever seen in my career because it is so robust. It might as well be its own experience league. But like I said, it is the culmination of, a lot of operations professionals over years working on this, updating it, editing it, and making it what it is. It's so great because it has an extensive list of all of our processes. So by program, by channel, and it helps you with step-by-step guides on cloning them, how to build them, how to edit them. Why does this exist? Why is this form field on here? It has a lot of information line by line to help people understand what they're looking at and, what it actually means when it's not on the page in front of them, when it's actually in practice. We have all of our form standards here. So if we're making those updates, if we have, new privacy updates, new requirements, those are always reflected on these pages. And then we have QA checklists all by program type. If you're looking to start something like this, I recommend starting with Marketo Docs and Experience League. You can grab a lot of the basics there and then customize it to how your business uses it. So you don't have to start from scratch. And I think the more that you can generate like this, it really does help your team overall. This is another section we have of it. Like I said, we have a lot of options, and enabling people to make their own decisions is super important. So we have a flow chart here that's very easy as far as like making decisions, that anybody can go to who gets a job, and they can ask these questions down the list and find out exactly what they need. So you can see here the types of campaigns that we offer, and then some of the resources that we have for the people who are doing this. We have those job name builders I mentioned, where you can plug in all of that information from the form and get your clean job name in its proper taxonomy and put it right in. We also have a UTM parameter builder. So there are a lot of hidden form fields on all of our forms that you don't see that are pulling, parameters for analytics and pulling even additional parameters for our leads and contacts that we're saving. So we also have a builder for that, where the specialist can put in all of the information from the form, all of the information from the job, and get their CTA link spit out with all of the parameters properly formatted. And then a quick look at the QA checklist for our program template. So you can see here we have not only a build process, but a QA checklist for each campaign type. And then this is an example of what those checklists look like when you're going down in QA. The last time I presented this, they asked me if you could actually check off the boxes. You still cannot. Years later, you cannot. This is SharePoint, and SharePoint sucks. But I will say that it doesn't actually matter that much. Just having the list that you can check off if you want in your mind helps make sure that you are hitting every single important point when you're going through QA, so you don't miss anything when you're doing these program builds, especially some of the more technical ones that depend on, like specific things like webinar tokens and that. All right. Some of the other ways you can get in front of your marketing team to evangelize is utilize resources you have within your company. So we have an intranet that is called Spark. We have an ability to have a team page in there we call our resource hub. Things that exist on it are like our major reporting links. So all of our Tableau dashboards and descriptions for those that are our most commonly used ones from marketing. We have all of our SLA and job submission instructions here as well. We also have a FAQ for people who are, maybe looking to increase their marketing, want to work with us more. What commonly questions do they need asked? We do our team updates here, but one unique thing that we do, which I think helps keep us top of mind with the marketing team, is our email competitor intelligence. So every month we do a post on our intranet that just shows screenshots of what our competitors are doing in their marketing emails, just to kind of show the marketing team overall, like what our competitors are doing, kind of spark their mind and get them excited for campaigns that they're doing. And just so we do that every single month as like a service for our marketing team. And then this is the last thing that I'll talk about, but this is probably one of the coolest things I've ever seen in Marketo. It made me think about it differently when I saw it, but it is a nurture portal. And what this is it's a series of web pages that functions like a little microsite, but it is entirely hosted and managed within Marketo. So what this does is it has a full description of what a nurture program is, what all of those stream definitions mean. Just as a side note, as a business, we run a redonkulous amount of nurture programs. We actually had it maxed out and had to have Adobe. We're in multiple BU, but it's mostly us. Okay, so we run a lot of nurtures. You can kind of see here that secondary page on front shows a list of all of the different nurtures that we have active. So it shows, what we have active. It talks about what a nurture is, what the purpose of it is for marketing, and then it gets into that terminology. So I don't know what awareness is. I don't know what consideration is. It kind of explains it all for everyone. And then to kind of jump into what one of these individual nurture pages looks like, you can see here I pulled out Inspire Science grades 6 to 8 to take a look at. But each of these nurture pages has the overview, which talks about the point of this nurture, why it was developed, who it's talking to. It has the success action. So if you're looking at the campaign or you're looking at your dashboard and you're like, what is all these nurture successes? Well, this is the actions that they have to take to be determined a success. We also have that Salesforce campaign link here to try to increase that enablement. Look at the nurture here. Look at the nurture in Salesforce. Connect them to your contacts. We also have a list of all of the live emails on the nurture stream. So every single one of those is a link you can click on. You can look at that live email that's going out to people so you can really see what those people are getting. And the best part is that each one of these pages has a form on it where you can enter a lead directly into that nurture. So we have workflows on the back end that look for these, manage the cookies. If you know Marketo, manage the cookies of those. And it onboards that lead onto the nurture and starts them at the top. So this is a really great way to enable people to understand what these nurtures are, that they're always on, that they're talking to our customers. And it really is a great way to increase that adoption and awareness of these great things that we're just doing all the time. So with that, I'll round it up real quick and we'll highlight the benefits. As you start to build out a COE, as you start to define your processes, you can really see a lot of improvements quickly. Your build accuracy, speed, and consistency will improve when you're cloning from those COE templates. It makes it so much easier, so much more streamlined. Bringing on new hires and contractors on board way faster. Having that documentation that they can refer to too has just been a big help, and not having to go back and re-educate, like they have resources there for them to use. Everything is optimized for reporting. Once people get used to the process, it becomes very easy. We have so much depth and history in there because we have these processes in place. You can easily identify areas of improvement. I talked about our job dashboard and having those custom areas like SLA averages. It really helps us keep an eye on areas where we can improve, and it kind of surfaces problem things before we may realize it's going on. Efficient team resource planning, like I said, when you have all those numbers in front of you, it makes it really easy to make a case for things, especially if you have an influx of jobs. So having all of that information up for you to see and use is very valuable for an operations team. And then really the bottom line, I think, that is the best is that it causes an overall increased utilization of your MarTech. Because we have so much buy-in for Marketo and what we do as a marketing operations team for the marketing business, we really utilize our instance. Like, we are using the heck out of it, and it's great. And I think that it's because we were able to create these processes that also return value to them, and then they can use that for intelligence to make good decisions in their role and have them grow independently as well. So I know that this seems like a lot, and we are an older instance, but there is a lot of power when you align yourself to thinking like this, to troubleshooting things, to aligning things into a process, and you can really streamline stuff and get a lot of pay for a little effort. And with that, I'll open it up for Q&A.
Thank you so much, Carissa. Sorry, guys. Can you hear me? Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much. This was amazing. Like, that's a lot of tips and tricks you give, and it's very eye-opening to me personally. Thank you. I don't know, do you see in the QA chat box, we have, I believe, 3 questions. Would you like me to read it for you, or you can see them?
Yeah, I can see them here, actually. Okay, it looks like the first one, link to a template checklist doc via SharePoint. It's a good idea. It's a good idea. I think there's a lot of clicks involved with what we have. So, and we tried to do it in Asana once, just for the record. We tried to do a checklist in Asana, and it was just a lot of extra work. It wasn't very automated. So we're still working on the checking of the checkboxes, but it's on the list. The next one says, how many stakeholders have the ability to make changes or updates to your COE? This is a really good question. So right now we have a structure within so we have 7 people within our marketing operations team. We have a director, a senior director, and then I function as one of the leads, and then I have a peer lead for the automation side. That level and higher has the ability to edit, but we also have been working on creating new responsibilities and roles for some of the specialists. So we have enabled them to also gave them the permission. So like, they'll be able to jump in and do updates. A lot of the documentation does need like little updates here and there. So, just as long as, like, primarily it is our responsibility as leads to keep this maintained and updated. But again, it's nice to be able to like offer that to specialists to help them grow and contribute to our COE too. The last one, Oh, there's two from Alex. Sweet. All right. So, audience COE, do you clone these when you want to use for a program or reference them as a filter in the program smart list? Very good question. I would expect nothing less from Alex. Um, we clone them because we have a lot of smart lists. We actually have a lot of smart lists. So it's really an instance running issue. We, by standard in our target list, we actually reference our exclusion list. Sometimes we're referencing an account list. So our default audience lists, which are ridiculously complicated, have already references included as part of the process. So we do clone out those master ones, and then we do additional editing on top. So like we'll do more job targeting, or we'll do more targeting, because those are just like our major buckets. And it looks like the last one here. How do you push sales marketing stakeholders to the nurture microsites? How do you market documentation internally for enablement? Those are good questions too. So we actually run a sales and marketing newsletter for the business. We just implemented it like 6 months ago. Prior to that, we would make our posts on Spark. I know that, especially even with something juicy like email competitor intelligence, where people are very interested, having links to our other things isn't really a driver. But what we have seen recently is with our sales newsletter, not only do we have, we create it as a normal campaign process, we put it out to our marketing managers to submit items for that newsletter. We build it, send it out internally, and that way we stay in front of people. We're constantly bringing up different highlights, and then those marketing people also have the buy-in because they're contributing, they're evangelizing their own projects. So it's actually been a really great catalyst to bring us all together and push these like things that we want, our new improvements, our great things that we were just launching, in front of people on the regular. Cool. Oh, thanks, Jeff.
Yeah, I totally agree with the Jeff point. That's a brilliant way to socialize the success.
It's been great because we have some newer specialists on the team that are working on emboldening their coding abilities. So it's been a really great way to like teach them more about anchors within our modular templates and things like that. So it's actually been a very great project overall.
Yep. Awesome. I think we don't have any more questions. Does anyone have any more questions? No? Carissa, thank you so much for joining us today. This is again amazing, and I make sure that I'm going to share the recording with the online as well, because I think that this a lot of lesson learned. So thank you.
Thanks for having me. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Bye bye.